Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. And what we're going to make are Italian rolls, or you can call them dinner rolls or sandwich rolls. And what's nice about them, you can top them with sesame seeds. You can leave them plain. You could put poppy seed on them, whatever type of topping that you want to bake them. And I did go ahead and make the dough in my bread maker or bread machine. Now you can make this by hand if you want, but I don't give instructions for that. I find that the bread maker, the dough that comes out is so much easier for me. There's no kneading involved, and there's not a lot of guesswork, and I always seem to get a really good product at the end. So there's kind of no guesswork. So if you're looking for a recipe that solely gives directions by the hand method of making this dough, maybe perhaps this isn't the video for you. But first off, I want to give you the recipe, so if you want to jot it down or whatever, because I no longer put the recipe below the video. So you will need 5 cups of flour. Now, you can use all-purpose if you want, or if you have bread flour, you might prefer it more. To be honest with you, I use both at times, and I get compliments from people, and they're really, I didn't notice yet anyone come up to say, wow, what a difference, or that kind of thing. So you decide if you want to try this recipe with bread flour. 5 cups, okay? I know it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, and I'll explain. Or if you don't like bread flour, don't have bread flour, use the all-purpose. I think you will love them. You really will love the rolls. Now, you also need 3/4 teaspoon of salt. You need 2 cups of water. I heat mine in the microwave to at least a temperature of anywhere around 110 degrees. You'll need 4 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 4 teaspoons. You'll need 3.5 tablespoons of olive oil. If you prefer to use vegetable oil or corn oil, whatever, it will work wonderful. I like olive oil a little bit better for this recipe, but you decide what's best for you and what you want to put in. And then you'll put 1 egg in, which take it at room temperature, and I just beat it up very lightly in a bowl, okay? I do beat it. And the last thing that you're putting in is 4.5 teaspoons of granulated sugar. Now, if you are using your bread maker as I did, follow its directions, because some makers tell you to put dry first and then liquid. Mine in particular, and I have 5 bread makers because I do so much baking. Mine are always water first. So please check your machine's directions on when to put the ingredients in carefully, okay? Now, what I'm going to show you, I'm just going to put a little flour on my countertop. Don't try to use too much flour, because you don't want these rolls to become dense and heavy. You want them light. The texture, that type of thing. Now this is half. This is half the recipe. So you're going to get, when I'm picking up this dough, you're going to get double that. So this is half. Now, to handle it, it's a little bit sticky in the beginning, but just a little bit of flour, and it's very manageable. It's very easy dough to work with. You don't have to struggle with it. The next thing to make these rolls is I'm using my scale, because I like all the rolls to look identical, and that the baking process will be even. And in this particular recipe, I'm using 3 ounces of dough, okay? So I'll just put that on my scale. Okay. And I like to be exact, you know, you don't have to, you know. And then, you know, everyone has their way of folding rolls. So, you know, you do what you think is best, but I just kind of push in the bottom like this, and then I bring in all the sides together on the bottom of the roll like that, and I just give it a twist, and then with my index finger I push it in like I'm pushing it in like a hole, and then I just take my hands and I roll it into a ball. Okay, there are different methods, of course, to do it, forming a rope and that kind of thing, but that is how I was taught to make them by my father in our family restaurant catering business. And after you do that, you can use parchment paper, or you can heavily grease your pan and do space them, you know, that good 2.5 inches, that kind of thing. And I just realized my bracelet is making a lot of noise, so I want to take that off, so I'm sorry about that. That kind of sound can be very annoying. And we're going to do one more. Okay. All right. Okay. And again, use the method that you prefer on, but again, like I said, if I don't cut an exact piece of 3 ounces and I have little pieces, I just put them at the bottom, and then I do that little pinch method to bring it all together like that. I give it a little twist on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. And then I just press it in. Okay, and then I just roll it in a ball. And I like the way they come out. Plus it makes me think of my family, so that's a good thing. All right, and then I just place them down. So you get the idea of that. And like I said, it is a nice dough to work with. It really is. All right. Now, what I'm going to tell you to do is, after you have them all on your baking tray, I cover them with a kitchen towel in the warmest part of my kitchen, and wait till they raise at least double in size. Okay? Now, once that they do raise, what I like to do is I just take another egg at room temperature and I beat it, and then just with a pastry brush, once they've risen and doubled, and that can take 30 minutes, it can take 45 minutes, it can take an hour to double. It really depends on, you know, on your kitchen temperature. And then I just brush them with an egg wash. If you don't want the egg itself and you want to use the white of the egg, that'll work. And then you can, you know, put on your sesame seeds or your poppy seeds or that type of thing. But today I made them plain because I'm making them for some company that are coming over, and there's a couple folks that can't eat seeds, so I really made them specifically for them. So I'm gonna rinse my hands quickly because I was working with dough that had eggs in it, and I want to show you the finished product. Now you're going to bake them at 350 degrees in a preheated oven, and they could take you anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. I actually start checking mine, believe it or not, in about 12 minutes, 13 minutes, that type of thing. And what I like to do is to, of course, when they're in the oven, is to tap them on the bottom. If I hear, you know, that hollow sound, then I know that they're baked. Okay, now this is how they turn out. This is a 3-ounce roll that you just saw me put together. This is the bottom. Okay, now this particular bottom, I greased my pan. This batch of the other 6 rolls, because I do get 12 out of this recipe, I'm using the parchment paper. But I do sometimes prefer putting the grease because it gives that nice crispy bottom that I love on a roll. But if you don't, use your parchment paper. It won't be as crispy on the bottom. Also too, if you like the tops to be a little bit more golden, leave them a minute or a minute and a half more. I prefer it at this color, more of very light, a light gold, but everyone is different in preference, in their preference rather, I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the rolls and cut it in half so I can show you the texture inside. I don't know if you can see me pressing on it, but they're light, they're delicate. The crumb on it, oh my gosh, you can see it pulling away. They're just pillowy, they're absolutely delicious. They have the texture, the top is a semi-crust. In other words, they're not real hard, but they're not, you know, terribly soft. It does have a nice little thin crust on the top. The bottom, like I said, because I put grease, has that crispy bottom. And then if you notice when I squeeze it, you know, that you can see how light and how delicate they are. They are delicious tasting rolls. They really are. They're great to make a sandwich with, or well, our family like to dip them in spaghetti sauce or with spaghetti dinner, that kind of thing. I mean, or just a nice dinner roll. They're great tasting. They're easy to make, and that's what I like. I like easy, quick recipes, but that tastes good, and this one does. So, in saying that, if you try this recipe and you liked it, please write to me. I'd love to hear from you. Or if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer in a timely fashion. But I also want to remind you that I only put my videos on YouTube. So if you write to me and watch me on YouTube, I'm going to get your question, I'll get your comment, and I will answer. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, well, I can't thank you enough. Or ring the bell. So I always want to say again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. Stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.